What's going on, everybody? It's Jamie, and welcome to the channel Thrift on Fire, and welcome to another video every day in February. We are on day 28. We're getting so close to the end. I don't know whether that makes me happy or sad. I really enjoy doing this. It really does take up a lot of time too, so it'll be nice to get a little bit of that free time back for some stuff that I've been slacking on for sure. This is going to be another podcast episode, so it's the Is This a Podcast series? Question mark with John, Reselling with John here on Instagram and YouTube. We do plan on moving this podcast to a new channel. We're going to create that channel. We will update you guys in the near future. Hopefully get it on another streamer, like something like Spotify or something like that. I'm not really sure. I'm going to have to figure out all the logistics of that later. But for now, let's get into this podcast.
So one of the main things, I guess, when you're reselling online is sourcing, and you're always should probably be sourcing. But along with that becomes listing. Some people, depending on where you live, you might source heavily in one season and list heavily in another season. There's all kinds of ways to really go about it. A lot of people call this problem a death pile. That seems to be a pretty common thing in the reseller world these days. So you're just saving things to list later. I've kind of lived in the world where I've had a huge death pile, and I've definitely lived in the world where I'm listing day to day while I'm picking stuff up. So I just kind of thought we could talk about why you would pick one or the other, or why maybe one would work over the other, or if there's a combination of both things that really work out to be, a better thing overall.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I mean, I'll start with what I think works for me and why. I want to avoid a death pile as much as I can. When I hear the term death pile, I think of that pile of stuff I haven't gotten to and I don't have a plan for yet.
Yeah.
So that's what I want to avoid. But that said, I do a lot of bulk sourcing, especially where I'm doing clothing. But then if I'm making like big like weekend runs out to thrift stores and stuff, I might source like 100 to 200 items in one weekend. And obviously I'm not going to get all that listed in a day or two. So with clothing, basically what we'll do is we'll let's say we have 50 items that we pick up. I've got a little booklet in my drawer in my area where I do my like packing and stuff, and also where I take my photos. And like I'll plan out drops, like I'll plan out what my listings are going to be for the next however long, depending on how much I've got in my recent pickup. So if I get like 50 items, I'll add 10 days worth of 5 listings to that planned out calendar that I've got basically. And I'll process it all, take all the photos and have everything organized and write down on that sheet like what box that's going in for when I finally get to it to list. So I do have I have a backlog for sure, because I always want to have like at least a week or two's worth of drops planned in case, I have some dry sourcing or whatever. But that said, I do want to avoid having all of those extras, like we say, that those like just death pile items, like I'll deal with them some other time.
Yeah.
So if I get any of those like extra spare things or just like the weird stuff or extra hard goods or video games or something, I do try to take care of those as quickly as possible and just kind of put them up extra to whatever it is that I've got for my daily plan drops, basically.
Yeah. No, that makes a lot of sense. That seems like a responsible way to go about it. I know doing it for a good amount of time, what I've found out about myself, and I think it's probably true for most people. I'm never more excited about the thing that I picked up than the day I picked it up. The longer that I don't list it, the least interested I am in that. And the new shiny thing over here that I just picked up is what I want to work with, right? So for me, I've really found, unless I do really big bulk buys, I know I just did a wholesale buy that was a lot of stuff, but not an unmanageable amount of stuff. Like when you buy a liquidation buy from like Amazon, like that type of thing, where you're getting 1,000 items, that's really, really hard. And then I would pick and choose kind of maybe what I list. But yeah, I found over time just continuously picking things up without listing it for me is a problem, because I won't go back to them. I'll look for the new shiny thing. And it's just, I don't know if it's human nature or the way that your brain is wired, but it just seems to be like if you list it, you have a better potential of selling it, obviously, and it's just going to sit there. So, yeah, death pile. The other thing I guess I wanted to touch on with death pile is I know when the pandemic hit and everything got shut down, right then the things, you know, that were laying around obviously got listed, but then it was really, really difficult to find things. I knew as we came out of that, or as things started to open up and shut down, I know I stocked up on more stuff than I needed, but the same things, that stuff sat around far too long. So I really feel like listing it when you have it is the way to go.
Yeah, and you know, I mean, the reality is probably somewhere in the middle, some kind of a hybrid approach makes sense because, and it's going to depend on everybody's situation. You know, I mean, if you're living in a nice warm climate where you can go out to garage sales pretty much year round, or there's always estate sales next to, or maybe you live in a very populated area and you're constantly getting good stuff off Facebook Marketplace that you can flip, you
Yeah.
know, then it's probably like you don't need to be maybe as calculated as I am, where I'm like, okay, well, I'm sourcing this, you know, once this week. Let's see if I can get 50 to 100 items and then plan out, you know, drops of 4 or 5 items for the next however many days that takes me. Um, so I think it is definitely very situational. But to your point about like, you know, when things are in lockdown or, you know, when things are just kind of weird, like, will I have another chance to source things or maybe you come across a really good deal? It's like, well, you know what? Sometimes you just got to bite the bullet, get the good deal, or maybe get the stuff even if you don't know when exactly you're going to list it because there's only so much time in a day. So I think it
Yeah.
makes sense. And, you know, you got to just think about like I said, you know, you can't sell if you don't get listed. So you need to have that in the forefront at all times. But then also it's like, do you have the extra cash to tie up right now that you can do that? You know, do you value your time because it's going to take a lot of time to go through these things? And
Yeah.
yeah, it's weird. I think a hybrid approach is probably where I'm at for the most part, but I got to be organized. I saw something. One final note I'll put in on this one is, I saw a note on a post in another reseller group, not the Canadian one. Shout out to the Canadian Resellers EH podcast or Facebook group,
Yeah.
but another one that I'm in where a girl was talking about how, you know, she's just got an unmanageable death pile that's pretty much taken over her house, and it's like an episode of Hoarders in there. And you know, I think you need to make sure that you recognize, like, when you get into this reselling game, you're not a collector, right? Like, you cannot have an emotional attachment to these items. These are inventory. You got to get them listed. You got to make sales. And if you're doing anything that's counter to that, you really need to reassess what you're doing, you know?
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, there might be the odd time where you buy something to hang on to it because you
Oh
know it
yeah.
might be valuable later. But yeah, I think
Yeah.
if you don't list the stuff you pick up, you're going to wind up, like you said, with a house full of stuff that is
Yeah.
going to be overwhelming. Um, and then you're going to wind up donating. I've been honestly, I've been there where I've had enough stuff that I knew I didn't want after the fact that I did just donate some of it. And
Yeah.
you have to be okay with that, I guess, too, if that's what it comes down to. So yeah, one of the other things that I get questioned about a lot, obviously with the YouTube channel, much like yours, is social media, and whether it be Instagram or if you have a YouTube channel. And there's a lot of negativity that can go along with that. But I find, honestly, for the most part, I get a lot of positivity when I'm, doing anything that's teaching somebody, or just explaining how I'm doing things, or if I run into a problem, how I problem solve through it. I think a lot of people who watch videos like I make and you make are really looking for that beginner step to getting into reselling. And then obviously, now when I watch videos, I'm watching it for like things to pick up and entertainment value. Then there's really sort of a mixture when it becomes, I think, on YouTube for sure. Um, I would say your channel is more driven towards factual stuff, like these are the things I'm picking up. This is how much it sells for. You break things down very well. Where my channel is more a little mixture of entertainment along with reselling. And, I try to be as honest about things as possible, but it gets a bad rap. Some people feel like because you're showing how this is done, you're like unveiling a little bit of the secrets behind reselling. And
Right.
some people don't like that. And it can kind of get nasty sometimes in the comments.
Yeah, I've seen a couple of things like that, you know, where people are like, it's almost like they think you're breaking the magician's code of like, oh, don't reveal the trick. It's like, well, it's not a trick. The reality is anybody could be doing this. And the
Mhm.
whole point in me making my YouTube channel and wanting to document this, it's surely not for me because I mean, um, it is some work. It doesn't take a lot of my time up, but I mean, when I was starting reselling and watching YouTubers and coming across things and wanting to get into it, Like, I gained so much absolutely invaluable knowledge from other resellers who were doing, either clothing stuff like I'm doing or just random things or like walking through all of those how to's. And so for me, it's like, if reseller YouTubers didn't exist, I wouldn't be where I am.
Yeah.
So I want to do at least these couple of videos a week where it's like, okay, I'm just showing what I'm doing. And if I can help somebody else, like, get started, start making some extra money, do whatever it is. I mean, I'm not going to lie, even though I just do this part time, um, this has been a life changing experience to have these extra few $100s rolling in every week. Like, that
Yeah.
makes a big difference. And so, I get a lot of friends and family and stuff who are always kind of complaining about money. And it's like, just watch my videos, just like, if
Yeah.
you want to not be complaining about money, or if you want to know like the basics of how to do this, then just get on YouTube, like watch people who are doing it and learn. And so that's my whole point and the reason why I do it. But every now and then you do get those like naysayers, or you get those people who are just like, well, that was really stupid, why did you sell it for that? I never would have taken that kind of an offer, or I never would have done it this way, or you should have used that box, or this, whatever. And it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, but you're getting into the minutia of the everyday business decisions that like you don't have all the context for, because I couldn't possibly like explain every single decision and all of the various layers that are involved in that. So
Yeah.
yeah, you'll get those people, but whatever. It's a very small portion of it.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, and I really do think like the other thing I find, or the thing that really drove me towards wanting to do reselling anyway, is I had another side hustle that I wasn't in love with, and I was trying to find a way to replace that money. And then when I found reselling, it was a lot more fun. It's a lot more freeing, and it actually accelerated, me paying my debts off faster that I had. I paid off some credit cards. I was able to, at the end of paying off credit cards, think, well, what do I want to do with all this money? After doing something fun a couple times with the money, you're like, you know what, I should be doing something more responsible. You start
Yeah.
saving money, and then all of a sudden, the next thing you know, you've got, a bank account that looks pretty nice, and then you have options in life. And whether your options are to reinvest that into something besides reselling, it could be just a footstep in the right direction of the thing you actually want to do. It doesn't have to be the thing that drives you for the rest of your life, but it could get you into the door of the thing that you actually are trying to do. So it's a great way to make extra money.
Oh, for sure. And honestly, that's how I really sum it up to people. And then, my girlfriend and I, we talk about it, and it's like, it just gives you options.
Yeah.
Like, I'm a 40-year-old guy who just bought a house. I wasn't able to buy a house until I was 38 years old. Just finances weren't there. It wasn't, the opportunity wasn't there. And now, I'm 40. I just bought a house. I've got some debt. We've got some credit card debt and all that stuff. But it's not overwhelming, because we're literally every week putting hundreds of dollars extra up and above and beyond minimum payments on that debt and knocking it
Yeah.
down. Like, we see the light at the end of the tunnel of like not only paying off the debt, but also like we could pay our house off early. And like, I see a lot of people in my life that are, my parents' age, or, mid 60s or whatever. And they don't know what they're going to do in a few years when they stop working, or maybe they can't afford to retire. And I don't want to be that person. Like, I want to make sure that when I'm older and I need a little more security, I've got it. So yeah, reselling's definitely been a step towards that, or at least the options, right? Like you say.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's just it. Does give you options, not only, in life in general, but like in what you want to do in the future. And I think, like you said, if you can pay off your house and set yourself up for better retirement and not have a full-time job, you could still continue to do this, or you could take what you've learned from this and move it into something else. I just think it gives you so much opportunity, for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
I know it's been actually a pretty good sales week for me. Not like it's doubled in what I had been seeing the last few weeks, especially on eBay. Um, but it's just selling higher higher value item stuff. Really, I don't think I'm selling more volume. I'm just selling better stuff this last week or so.
Right.
So that's been kind of nice. The other thing, I've been running sales. I just started them about 3 or 4 days ago. That really seems to really kick in the eBay algorithm for whatever reason. But along with that comes a lot of lowball offers, which I don't love, because I do have offers on. So when you get like, super low ball offers, sometimes that can be discouraging or annoying as well. But with that being said, how your sales been, and do you have a particular sale this week that's going to be your sale of the week?
Yeah, so sales this week, were pretty good. Like, I would say that they are back to the kind of Q4 numbers that, it's like, all right, leading up to the holidays, things were really good, October, November. So it was definitely like a Q4 reminiscent week, but it was because of a couple of bigger ticket items, like you said. Like there was a couple of things that flipped for around that $200 mark, and so obviously that's going to be good revenue coming in.
Yeah.
And I am also running a sale as well, and it's on eBay, and I 100% agree with you. That kickstarts the algorithm. They're just like, oh, this person's really trying, and I don't know, like, I don't believe everything everybody has to say about the algorithm, but at the same time, like, there are patterns you can recognize. eBay wants you to make sales because they want to collect fees. That is their whole business model. If you don't make sales, they don't make money. So, I started running a sale, I think last week, maybe almost 2 weeks ago now, just to, like, on my oldest 200 listings. Except for a couple of things, I put everything at 30% off, and I'm running it until like March 20th or something. And definitely have sold a lot of that older stuff. And some of it, I went for really cheap. Maybe I've only made a couple of dollars or something. But like at this point, I'd rather just move that old stuff. I don't want to hold it another year or two.
Oh yeah.
Hopes that I make the $10 I was aiming for, right? But yeah, the big sale for this week was a set of 9 Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem figures from the movie that came out last year. And so I picked these up. These were Walmart exclusives. And actually, I think they are still even available in Walmart, I'm pretty sure. But I was able to get these at cheaper than retail prices. I've got some more actually as well, but this was the full set of 9. So the 4 turtles, the 4 villains, and then Splinter as well. And Splinter was really hard to come by for a while. So anyway, I sold the lot of 9 for $210 plus shipping. So that was pretty decent.
Yeah, that was, I actually seen that. I think you maybe posted it in the Facebook group.
Yeah.
It was pretty nice sale for sure.
Yeah. So I still have another set of the turtles. I've got like the set of 4 turtles, and that is still listed. I don't know. I mean, it might take a while for them to sell, but it's just fun stuff too. I like selling stuff like that is reminiscent from my childhood. Like, I grew up watching the Ninja Turtles, so
Yeah.
it's kind of
And,
cool as well.
and that was retail arbitrage, right? Like you bought those new when they came out?
Yeah. So I have a contact who look. I don't ask a lot of questions. I don't know how he came across all of these. All right. I just know that he sometimes has Walmart stock, and that's all I know.
Okay.
I don't think these things are stolen. I'm not, condoning any kind of criminal activity or anything like that. But I think that he sometimes, because I live in a rural area, so I think that sometimes like businesses around here are more willing to make deals with people on bulk items and stuff like that. Whether or not they're supposed to, I don't know. It's none of my business. But in any case, it was a almost retail arbitrage type situation, but they were still pretty new in the store. But I got them for about a third of retail, so it was pretty good.
Yeah, that's excellent. Yeah, I mean, I think that's more than fair. I'm working with somebody right now who's got a garage full of, it's like Walmart type stuff, Target. I just went through it the other day. It's a lot of stuff, but some of it's water damage, some of it's brand new in package. It's just like it's filling up their garage, and they just want it out of there. So I dug through the other day. But yeah, like an opportunity like that to buy brand new stuff, even if it is from like, a Walmart, a Target, whatever, it still has value if you can get it at a low price, and you can, something like that, like you're talking collectible,
Exactly.
you can see over time it's just going to gain value.
Exactly, because the thing is, once it's out of the store and once it can no longer be found in the new market, then people are going to start paying like eBay prices for it. And I think I actually lucked out a little bit, like, because I'm sure they probably still are in Walmart, or maybe not in every Walmart. Maybe I think I've seen them in mine, but maybe they just still have
Yeah.
some left over because I'm in a smaller area. I don't know, but
Yeah, that can be it too, though, right? Like you could be sold out locally, and I've heard of different people driving from like city to city to buy things that drop, right? That they know that are gonna sell out. Um,
I
you
did
know,
that with I did that with one of the McDonald's boo buckets, the Halloween boo buckets.
yeah,
I was
awesome.
out on a sourcing trip and like hitting up every McDonald's. Just all I wanted was this one like green bucket or something. I didn't even want it. My girlfriend wanted it. It was the last one we needed or something. And it's like, yeah. So I know what you mean. Like people will drive around like idiots to find that stuff because I'm one of
Yeah, but
them.
part of that can be kind of fun too, right? If you
Oh,
like, if you like road trips and just you got some companionship with you that somebody you enjoy spending time with, that can just be fun. It can be just a good time,
yeah,
and it's just a bonus if you're going to make a few bucks on the side.
yeah, definitely, definitely. What was your top sale? Did you have a couple that
Yeah,
stood out to you? Yeah.
yeah, I had a few jerseys that I was really happy to see go out from the wholesale buy that I just recently did, and but I was really happy with the Jordan. So the Jordan ones, I listed them on eBay and they sold. The guy, nobody like tried to lowball me, negotiate. They just said they paid the. I think the video comes out today of the what sold. So it would be like the day the day before this video, right? As it
Okay.
comes out, but
Yeah.
um yeah, I think they sold for full price, which was around 110 or something like that, plus shipping.
Nice.
I paid $20 for them. I just cleaned them up a little bit because they had paint on the bottom. There's only so much you could do. So I really sort of gauged how much time I wanted to put into them, even though they were valuable. But shoes like that, people still, I've sold ones that were covered in paint. Somebody still wants them. The
Yeah.
interesting about that sale was anything over $100 on eBay has to go get verified. So I had to send it off for verification. So you ship it to the eBay. I think it's in Illinois. There's a couple, but the one I sent to is Illinois. It'll get verified that they're legitimate. And then, unless they're not, I did not. I mentioned I might send those ones in the check, but I didn't because I looked at the stitching. There are just a few things that are on those shoes that the way that they are, if they're fake, you would be able to tell. Like
Right.
you wouldn't make them that precise, right? And if
Yeah.
they are fake, I would like eat my own hat, which
Right.
hopefully I don't have to, right? But there's always that possibility. But yeah, I was just so happy with that because it's not so much about it is about the sale, but it's just about everything that I've sold from that particular buy from that particular person has gone on to sell for really, really good money, or good enough money that it's worth it for me to continue with the relationship. I think this coming Friday, I'm going up there to buy some more stuff. I'll probably do the same thing. I'll probably just do a haul video about what I get. So every 2 weeks, he has the ability to give me that much stuff. Now I probably took only 20% of the stuff that he had, and the rest of it he just took to another vintage shop in town and they gave him the money he wanted. So he's being nice to me, letting me cherry
Right.
pick this before it goes to where he normally sources it or sells it to. So yeah, so that's a great sale. I was super happy with that one. But more than anything, just happy to start that relationship and hopefully keep it going forward.
Yeah, that is a really good setup there, and to have that kind of relationship, to have that like networking, to know that I mean, there's another potential place if you ever do get in like a dry sourcing spell where it's just like, hey, can I come grab, an extra, like maybe, more than you would normally grab, or instead of
Yeah.
getting 20%, maybe you grab a few extra things, maybe you normally wouldn't pick up. But yeah, no, that's awesome, man. I think I remember seeing those in the pickup video and thinking, yeah, they won't last long.
Yeah. Unfortunately, you won't see it until tomorrow's video, but I know you had mentioned in that video about the Donkey Kong hat. I won't tell you what it sold for,
Okay.
but amazing. I couldn't be happy. It might be my favorite sale of this entire series this whole month. But yeah, watch tomorrow. You could probably, you're smart enough. You could probably go check the comps in my store and see what it
Right.
sold for, or anybody could honestly. But yeah, it's I was very,
No,
very
that's good.
happy with this whole
That's
for.
awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw that and I was like, that's a really cool thing. And so part of me is like, I need it. And then the other part of me is like, no, John, what are you doing? Don't be an idiot. Don't spend that kind of money on a hat. And
Yeah.
so I wrestled for probably a good 2 days and thought to myself, should I send another message to Jamie and talk about this some more? I was like, no, no, no. Let's just let it go. Let it go. I'm happy it sold for you. That's good. That's awesome. And now I
Yeah.
don't need to agonize over it anymore.
Yeah. There you go. Yeah. Um, but that's another thing, and that kind of segues well into, I guess, my next topic here that I wanted to talk about. So if I seen that in a thrift store, I don't know if I, besides it being Nintendo and Donkey Kong, I don't know if I would gravitate it to it and think, oh, this would be worth money. So that kind of comes into like, do you trust your gut when you see things? Like, or do you instantly want to check comps and pull up Google Lens? I mean, there's certain things that trigger my interest where I don't know about them and I want to pull up Google Lens, but how often do you do that? Is it just, do you trust your gut a lot, or do you really just check things whenever you think maybe there might be potential?
I would say it depends on what I'm out sourcing. Again, as mostly a clothing seller, I feel very confident in walking in, skimming through the items, and just knowing, okay, this is good, this is good. No, that's crap. I mean, there are obviously still things that pop up that I'm like, oh, I should look at that. I've never heard of that brand before.
Yep.
Um, but I would say that, if I'm in my normal clothing thrift shop and I'm in there shopping and I'm looking around for like, say, an hour and I skim through, most items, I bet I'm probably only comping things maybe like 3 times out of that entire trip. And it's usually because it's something that I just don't know anything about or I've never seen it before. And 9 times out of 10, that turns into absolutely not worth picking up. So whatever, now I know. Um, but if I'm out and around and I'm like looking at just a bunch of random stuff, like just various hard goods or whatever, I mean, there's just so much that I just don't know. So if I'm like in Value Village or whatever, I might be walking down the aisles and have Google Lens open, and everything that catches my eye, just Google Lens it and just be
Yeah.
like, okay, is this anything? Do I see a listing? And move on. Because I mean, that's the thing about like, whether it's like a little brass figurine or some kind of ceramic or some kind of whatever, like it could be worth 12 cents or it could be worth $1,200. And I
Yeah.
have no idea. I do not have the eye for it. So,
No, but I think you probably notice, even with just clothing and anything else that you do start to, video games that you do really start to recognize value in quickly, the more you research things, the more you just learn about what makes them valuable. And that, I think over time it does become more of a gut instinct on what you would look at. There are things though that I've overlooked where somebody's told me is worth a bunch of money that I'm like, really? Like, I wouldn't believe that, even knowing, the background of other items that maybe have value. There is always going to be those things. But yeah, I just couldn't
yeah,
imagine just searching every single item that, I don't have to be interested in an item to want to sell it. I could just sell it because I know it's valuable. But a lot of times that's part of the fun about sourcing, is like you're selling stuff that you kind of like and it is enjoyable, you know.
exactly.
Yeah, not always. I mean, I do pick up, and I know you do the same. Like, I'm not super interested in women's clothing and jeans and t-shirts, but you learn about them and you learn the valuable brands and you kind of learn the trends. And
Yeah.
those things are things you learn over time. It certainly is not something I'm sure you had a huge interest in prior to reselling.
I can tell you with 100% certainty that I really had zero interest in women's dresses or blouses or anything like that before
Yeah,
reselling.
yeah,
But it's funny, like when I first started, and here's going back to that thing we were talking about like, why do you make YouTube videos, and like what's the point of the presence, and just what does it mean? Like, again, I had zero idea when I first got into this, and I got into clothing again. We've talked about it before, but because it's something that's really abundant in my area and available to me.
yeah,
So naturally, that's what I started watching as far as content on YouTube, and I started learning about brands and things like that. But when I first started out really getting into clothing, like pretty heavily, maybe about a year and a half ago, I literally had no idea. So I was looking up all the stuff. And you know what? At that time, with that limited knowledge base, that is the right thing to do, because you don't want to go home with a whole bunch of stuff that never sells.
right.
And yeah, it is way more work to begin with. And I know that as a new reseller, it can feel a little bit overwhelming, like, oh man, how am I ever supposed to know like what to pick up or what to not? But to your point. I mean, you just learn and you just recognize the patterns over time. And now I could list off 15 or 20 women's clothing brands that it's like, yep, I'd pick that up. I'd pick that up. I'd pick this up if it's this item or this style. Like, it's just, you just
Yeah.
learn it naturally over time, right?
Yeah, but like we say, when you're starting and you don't know, guys like me and you would go and pick up. Well, I really like the shirt, but like a Mighty Mouse shirt or
Yeah.
a bunch of Nintendo shirts that are new, like that aren't vintage, and you're just gonna find stuff that you think looks cool, but that doesn't mean that it's worth money. And that's a very had to learn that lesson pretty quick, just picking up things that I thought was interesting, and then you get them home, you're like, oh, this is surely going to be worth good money. No, or you learn that not if you look at a brand like Tommy Hilfiger, not all Tommy Hilfiger is the same.
Right.
There's modern Tommy, there's all different years, and there's different the logos are all different. There's ones that are made in the US, I think, that are super vintage, right? And they all have different value. Just because it's Tommy Hilfiger doesn't mean that it means anything, really.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's funny. I just sold like 3 days ago. I just sold a t-shirt that I picked up almost 2 years ago. Okay. And it was like just a plain black tee. And it was just like the Marvel Avengers across the top and, like little comic book graphic print. And I thought when I picked it up, surely, oh man, this is a cool shirt. Look how cool this shirt is. Someone will want to buy this. And it's only $5. Oh man, this is great. I'll make like 15, 20 bucks on this. No problem.
Yeah.
I sold it for $6.
Yeah.
It was in my 30% off sale. And then I got an offer and it was like, you know what, buddy, just take it. Like, take it. So I ended up making back like a couple dollars of my initial investment. I took a loss on it overall, but I was so happy to get like $2 back of my original buy cost. And it's like, these are the things that you do when you're new. You think that this is cool.
Yeah.
Well, that doesn't mean anything.
No, it doesn't. And that's where I think it is kind of like a mixture of both. I mean, when you're starting out, you can watch videos like this, or like our thrift haul videos or whatever, and kind of find brands. The problem can be with those type of videos, if you're watching one of my videos or one of your videos from a couple of years ago, those brands do not make any sense anymore to pick up. It could be the same for hard goods, like vintage electronics and stuff like that probably are still going to hold value some, but like when it comes to pop culture or clothing, those brands change often.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like super fast. Sometimes you've got a really small window and it's like, all right, let's get on this trend because by the end of this season, it's over.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
And it's tough to get to know, to be able to recognize that. But once you start to see it and you're like, okay, all right, I need to get rid of this now. Like that, put it on sale because otherwise you're going to get stuck with it.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and the other thing too with same thing kind of goes with video games. Like there's so many, a lot of people think like, okay, oh, I've got this whole box worth of Nintendo 8-bit games. Most of those games aren't worth a lot of money, and it's the same with all consoles. There's so many games that are not worth money. Sports games in particular. I know you mentioned the NHL. Was it 2010 or which one was it?
It was NHL 2004 on GameCube.
Oh, so further back, yeah. So there's the odd sports game like the NCAA. Is it 13 or 13 that's worth all the money, right?
Yeah.
So the odd sports game, but most sports games you can almost write off as soon as you pick it up. But they're not equal either, right? And unless there's a reason for it to be valuable, a lot they're just not.
Yeah, for sure. And that's one of the things that like it really ties in with everything else that we've talked about. It's like you got to know when something's going to be valuable, when something's not. But if you think back to like, if you just kind of take a step back and look bigger picture, like think about how Xbox One, PS4, that stuff's about 10 years old now. Mm-hmm. And like anybody who really got into that really hard is at this point, they don't care anymore. So like now personally for me who likes video games, like now's the time to collect. Xbox One and PS4. It's just long enough that no one cares about it anymore, or it doesn't have that same buzz, right? Because now it's only like the few collectors that want to like pad their own personal collection. But it's the same with anything, really. I mean, the window of opportunity you have is different, whatever category you're selling in, but you still need to just think of the bigger picture and be like, okay, realistically, how long is someone going to care about this item? So I do try to like keep that in mind as well, because especially in clothing, you've got maybe like 2 to 3 years usually before, okay, and here's the new innovation. We're back to flared pants and everything from the 90s that looks grunge. And then in 5 years from now, everybody be wearing skinny jeans again, So it's weird.
Yeah, it is weird. And the other thing I think to keep in mind too is like right now, it changes all the time. But like when generations come up and then, they always want to rebuy their youth, right? Like you're talking about buying games 10 years ago. I mean, but you probably also want to buy games. That's probably when the N64 stuff comes in, right? That's probably the peak of your video game. What really got you into video games? Could have been before that. I'm not really sure, but I would probably think in our age group, N64, PS1, those type of things probably really got you like hooked into video games.
That was definitely, between Super Nintendo and PS1. That was the window for sure.
Yeah. So now you start thinking about somebody who's, 10 years younger. So a 30-year-old, like what got them into it? So they might be looking at the PS2, beginning of the PS3. Now you start like thinking about somebody who's 20 years old right now. What did they start with? Might have been PS4, might have been the end of PS3, but they're the people who are going to have money to burn, living at home with mom and dad, and they're going to want to rebuy their childhood the same way that we wanted to rebuy ours.
Exactly.
That's so cool.
Those really cheap Xbox One and PS4 games I just talked about, I'll be glad that I got them in my collection, because in 5 years' time, all of those are going way up. For exactly that reason you just said.
Yeah, I think so too. But then your question becomes, a video game is super easy to store, but there's so many things that will be toys, collectibles, the same type of things. How much stuff do you want to hoard over time just based off of that? It becomes difficult as well.
Yeah. Because then you get into death pile.
Yeah. Now we're back to the death pile.
Yeah.
First off, I really want to thank John. We've tried to work around each other's schedules to make this work over the last month, and we're going to continue to do that. I think we're going to try to make a brand new YouTube channel. We're going to try to drive some traffic from this channel. We're going to try to drive some traffic from John's channel and grow it organically through conversations just like this. It'll be the same type of format. I think we're going to do a new channel. I'm hoping to do an audio only version and maybe put it on Spotify or another, streaming, or another like podcast streaming service, something like that. I don't really know. I have to look into that because I've never done it before. So it'll be something fun and new for me to figure out as well. And as far as the series goes, we only have one more episode and then the month is over. I originally thought 28 and done, but because of that leap year, I've got one more. So hopefully you guys stick around. Hopefully you guys watch it. If you've watched all the videos in this series, I would be interested. Let me know in the comments down below. If you guys like videos like this, please give it a thumbs up. If you're not subscribed to the channel, please consider subscribing, as we're still trying to hit 3,000 subs by the end of the month and we're running out of time. So anyway, guys, we'll see you tomorrow.